Cool. All right, folks. So week 3 of our sexuality series this summer. Today, we're going to be talking about dating, online dating and disability. So basically technology and disability, what that's like. And I have recently gone through the process myself. So I'm going to be sharing some of my own experiences with you all. Keenan is going to be sharing some of his experiences because he's done quite a bit of online dating. And Dan's going to be sharing his experience, not so much about online dating, but just sort of dating in general, and maybe talking a little bit about the technology piece too, because I'm not uber techie, which we discovered this morning through some ridiculous emails, which I will not bore you all with. All righty, so I have a little presentation for you, which I will get up here. Actually, sorry, before I do that, I wanted to show you all a video. So give me 1 second to get that going. Because a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, unfortunately, there's some negatives to it. Putting yourself out there as a person with a disability comes with some caveats, like you might be rejected by people and might be made to feel sort of less than and yucky and stuff. But there's also some great people out there, and there's some awesome ways, through online dating to meet some of those great people. So I found this video and I thought it was really cute. None of the people necessarily have disabilities, but they met online, and they all had like kind of awkward intros, which can happen. And they all ended up, staying together in long-term relationships. So I thought we'd start off positive before we get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. So give me 1 sec and I'll share my screen with you all. All right, there we go. Okay, perfect. So gonna watch this quick little video.
People we met on Tinder, the majority of the responses we get are like, wow, that's awesome. Or, wow, I love the fact that it's not stigmatized anymore. Like, you don't feel weird telling me that. And I'm like, I don't.
He was my second date on Hinge. My first date on Hinge was awful, terrible. So I was more of a novice to the dating app world, and Ruck was definitely more experienced in the dating apps.
I wouldn't say experience.
I just so happened to message a young lady who did not respond right away. Actually, it took her about a month and a half.
I had a lot of people in my inbox.
I looked through her pictures and I saw she was at a concert, I think in a couple of them, which was immediately attractive.
I'm trying to remember the pictures. I mean, I must have found him attractive because I swiped his face.
So she was my first
You got lucky.
date. Yeah, I won the lottery.
I just remember you talking about your cats, and I was like, oh, there's a guy that likes cats.
I can't be telling them I have cats. What the heck?
We met on Bumble, but we actually knew each other from 9 years ago.
I didn't know it was Kelsey because, to my defense, I didn't know she was living in Brooklyn, New York.
But I recognized Isaac. And I was like, Isaac from Austin, this is awesome. I was just trying to say hi to him. And he was like, hey, are you from Texas? And I was like, oh my God, this guy doesn't remember me.
And she said something like, well, what kind of music do you play in your band? And I had seen her pictures, so I said, obviously, we cover the Grateful Dead.
That was good.
And I'll never forget, she responded, okay, I like you.
And we met about 4 years ago. We like to call it love at right swipe because, at least for me, when I saw the picture of Jason, I think it was a normal headshot kind of thing. But the second photo was him pushing this cart, and it had like food on it, and he was laughing because it was, what was it?
We were at IKEA and it was a cart full of meatballs.
It's weird to meet somebody in real life. Like, if someone meets someone at a bar, I'm like, I don't understand. Or you can really like someone online and then you're like...
It's true.
Yeah.
Basically catfish.
Yeah.
Don't get catfished.
Where would you be without me?
I don't know.
I know.
Probably still be.
On OkCupid.
Really? Okay.
And me too.
Alrighty, so I just wanted to share that with you all because, it was cute, and there were some happy endings there, which I loved. So I just hope you enjoyed that. All right, so now we'll get started with the presentation. 1 sec. Alrighty, so, oh my gosh, I can't see anything because of this thing up here. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. So technology and dating with a disability. So you're thinking about trying online dating. The first thing that you should probably figure out is, are you ready to date in general? You know, there's a few things that I found, you know, that you should maybe think about before you're putting yourself out there. You know, you're excited to date. It feels exciting and new. And yes, you know, some of that goes, being scared a little bit goes along with that. That's totally normal. Having some confidence, you know, recognizing that you're a great catch. You have something to offer. You know, if you've been in a long relationship or another relationship, making sure that you're over that relationship, you've dealt with sort of any baggage that has come along with that one. You know, having faith that there are good people out there, and also knowing that you don't need somebody in your life, but you're feeling really good about having someone in your life to share experiences with. So those are just a few little sort of tips on things that you might be ready to date if you're feeling, you know, like you've checked some of those boxes. If you're maybe feeling unsure, you know, are you feeling like you want to focus a little more on some other aspects of your life? Maybe you don't have the time to dedicate, because as we'll see as we go through this presentation, online dating takes some time. Maybe you're not feeling super happy with yourself lately, or maybe you don't know how to communicate effectively, and that's something you maybe need to work on a little bit first. If you're not over your last relationship, or you feel like you can't commit, or like there's some pressure to commit. I'm just going to click out of here for 1 second because I can't see any of you guys. Is everything working okay? You can see everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everything's good.
Okay, awesome, thanks. All right. So for those of you that have never tried online dating, this is like the Cole's Notes, like how to do it. So it's basically a system that allows for people to meet each other. So especially right now in like COVID and all the restrictions, and, you know, with bars and restaurants and stuff being shut down for such a long time, the typical places where you would meet people wasn't happening. So online dating has been around for a long time, but it's the uptick in it has been quite substantial since COVID happened. There's ones that are set up for personal relationships, sexual relationships, romantic, other ones that are just like friendly relationships or business relationships. So there's like different apps for everything. Some of them are free. Some of them start out free, and then you end up like you have to pay to continue. Some of them are paid right from the beginning. So basically the way it works is you become a member, you create a profile, you upload your personal information. So usually it's your first name, your age, your gender, your sexual orientation, your location, and then some photos typically is how it works. And then oftentimes there's spots to put in, you know, like things you're interested in or stuff you like to do, or like deal breakers. Like on mine, for example, it was like no smokers. Like that was like 100% a deal breaker for me. So, you know, you can put those kind of things in yours. Other things like on mine, for example, I remember at the end, it was like something you love and something you hate. So I'm like, I love Friends and I hate cilantro. And like, it's so funny because like literally 3 people reached out to me, be like, I hate cilantro too. And it was like, that was the thing that they found most like connected with of my whole profile. So it was kind of funny. And then once you create a profile, you can view other people's profiles and decide whether or not to make contact with them. All right. Does anybody have any questions about sort of that stuff, or it's pretty basic? All right. So how to make connections in dating apps. So I was going to reactivate my Bumble account just so I could show you guys, but honestly, it's like all it is a picture, kind of like Instagram, where you would see like a photo of someone. And then if you're interested in them, you're going to swipe right. And that's the case with like Tinder, Bumble, a few of the other ones. It's like a swipe right if you're interested. If you're not interested, you swipe left. And then likely you're not going to see that person again. So in my case, I remember like there was a couple I like swiped left and I was like, oh shoot, because I had like the free version. So in the paid version, you can like unswipe and then go back. So if you're, you know, just take your time, because like there was 2 that I was like, oh, I was kind of bummed, and then they never came back on you know, whatever the rotation or whatever you want to call it. So if you use a web-based site, so if you're not using a smartphone, you can click on the person's photo, or some of them it says like connect with, or I want to chat with or whatever. So there's like usually the different websites have different wording. So you just click on like connect once you've decided that you want to make a connection with them. All right, so some pros and cons of online dating. Keenan, if you want to jump in while I'm talking, as we chatted about some of these, that would be awesome. So one of the pros, especially right now, in
Actually, Sherry, before we go on, can we like, if you want to share, if you feel comfortable sharing, how many people here have ever tried online dating? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have some experiences around that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So and Alana has as well. So as we go through, if you have anything that you want to share in terms of like your experiences, I would love to hear that. So let me pull this up again. I wish there was a way to like see you guys while I'm sharing my screen, but
there is, if you want me to tell it to you quickly.
Yeah, that would be great.
If you go into your PowerPoint software.
Oh, never mind, I found it. You're there.
All right.
I'm so techy now. All right, you're there. Thank you, Dan. Okay, so the only thing is now I'm blocking some of this. So there we go. It's sticky in the corner. Okay, so you have access to lots more potential matches than you probably would in real life meeting scenarios, right? So let's say you go to like a bar or a restaurant, maybe you'll bump into like 4 or 5 different people in that in that time, where when you're on online dating, literally there's like hundreds of people. Even if you put like sort of geographical parameters on your site, like on your account, you'll still get so many people. So kind of, it's a numbers game. It gets more people out there. Online communication is safe and convenient, especially right now. If you're nervous about being out there and with COVID and stuff, it's a good way to communicate with people safely. There's not as much stigma around, or no stigma, I would say, around online dating like there used to be. Like I remember like one of my good friends, his like wife, he met online, but it was like early days. Or Dan and I were talking the other day, and I don't know if you guys you're probably not as obsessed with Friends as I am, but there's this early episode of Friends, Keenan is, thank you, where Chandler does online dating and he turns out it's Janice. But like everyone was like mocking him, like, you were online, like, oh my gosh, you met her on the computer, you're such a nerd. But that's not how it is anymore. There's like no stigma around it. And then another cool thing is like you can enjoy guilt-free dating. So you can talk to like a number of people and not feel, like you're doing anything wrong, because honestly, they're doing the same thing. Like everyone's talking to lots of people, getting to know what you like, what you don't like. And it's kind of a cool way to find out your interests and like what draws you and attracts you to someone, and what is like, no, that's definitely not what I'm interested in. And then once you're ready for in-person meetings, you're a lot more comfortable because you already had some connection. Like I've gone on a couple dates with people that I met online, and I felt so like the first time I was like meeting them, or if it was like a blind date or someone was setting me up with a friend or something like that, because we already had some rapport and like things to talk about, and some like little jokes and stuff like that. So it felt less awkward. I mean, going on dates is always awkward, but the first few times, but it was definitely less than it would have been. All right, some cons. So, it can feel a little daunting to create that profile. Like I remember being nervous, like, what do I put out there? And we're going to get to the disclosure part, like about disclosing a disability or not in a minute. But that was a big part of it for me. Like, do I put that out there? And then also it's a crowded space. There's lots of girls, there's lots of guys looking for, love or connection or hookups or whatever they're looking for. So finding a match can take some time. And there's always going to be dishonest people. So, people with the like whole catfishing thing. And I know, Keenan, are you interested in telling us your story?
I will. I'll tell it a little bit later once we get through this part, but I will. I'll share that one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, not good for me, but it's a funny one.
It's not good, but it was entertaining for us after the fact.
Yes.
So
I
yes.
thought it was hilarious.
I did. There's some dishonest people out there, and then there's people, who you might have great chemistry like on text with, and then you meet them in real life and like the chemistry is just not there. So that can happen too. But again, it's all about learning about what you like, what interests you, what, you know, makes you feel good and happy, what kind of people you want to surround yourself with. So I think it's a great opportunity to learn all that stuff. All righty, so here we go. So to disclose or not to disclose, that is the question. So people with disabilities, you know, we deal with discrimination every single day. This can also apply in the online dating world. And unfortunately, there's some people that are just not going to see you for the awesome person you are. They're really just going to focus on the disability. It's going to start and end with that. And sometimes this happens right away. So people just won't even swipe, won't even connect, whatever. And then other times you connect with someone for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, it's too much, or they can't handle it. And this recently happened to me, actually, someone that I was talking with for like a month. You know, I thought everything was going great. We were supposed to get together, and then he totally bailed. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. So let me tell you, it feels crappy, but you know, you get over it, because guess what? That's not the kind of people that we want to get to know anyways, right? So if they're not even gonna be able to handle the fact that you have a disability on like a date, how are they going to handle it in the long term if that's what you're looking for? So yeah, so it's up to you whether you disclose or not. There's sort of some risks and benefits to both. So if you choose to disclose it right away, whether like for example, in my profile, I had photos of me like clearly in a wheelchair. So I had like pictures of me like when I did a triathlon, so I had a picture of that. And then like on my hand cycle, and then one just like sitting there where it was like super obvious. But this also means that people have to scroll past your first photo. So let's hope they take the time to do that. And this kind of can weed out some of the people who aren't, you know, as receptive to being with someone with a disability. But, you know, it can also open you up to some exploitation potentially, to people who are like, you know, fetishize people with disabilities. I personally haven't experienced that on online dating. I've had that on like Instagram and like Facebook and stuff like that, but on online dating, I haven't had that experience. So, but apparently it does happen. And then if you choose not to disclose your disability right away, you know, it allows people to get to know you, get to know your personality first. But then again, you do run the risk of someone deciding, like, after you've put in all this time, no, you know what, I'm not cool with that, or I can't handle that, or whatever. So there's not really a right way to do it. It's entirely up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. I know, Dan, you wanted to maybe touch on something here.
Yeah, so there's a couple interesting things about disclosure, and I think that we see the disclosure issues not just in online dating, but for many of you who have applied for jobs and whatnot, right? You sort of ask yourself that same question, right? When do I let them know that I have a disability, or in an employment situation, you know, if I need an accommodation? So it's sort of a discussion that a lot of us have, right? When do I let somebody know I have a disability? But just last night, I actually had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine, and she disclosed to me that, and I never even knew, that she had an invisible disability that would potentially affect someone's decision of whether or not they would be interested in dating her. And she said that when she first started dating or online dating, she wouldn't disclose, right? She would sort of get to know the person and build a rapport, and then sort of like let them know about this thing. And she said that honestly, it was too almost heartbreaking, because then a lot of people would then like change their mind, or like, oh yeah, well, sorry, I'm busy that night. You know what I mean? So she decided a long time ago that she just comes right out and says it like first thing, because in her way, it's like, well, the type of person, like, yeah, you can think, well, yeah, but maybe if they got to know me first, but part of who you are is your disability. So, you know, you want to be genuine with somebody, and maybe not hide it, because then if you tell them later, not only are you surprising them with information that they didn't know, but there's a chance too that they might feel like, oh wait, so you've been hiding it from me, and you haven't been honest with me. So then, you know what I mean? So it certainly is a touchy subject, and it's very personal for everyone. But I thought it was really interesting that just last night, a friend of mine was very much like, no, I say it like right away, because I don't want to make any emotional investment in somebody who isn't going to be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, emotional investment. That's like the perfect language to use, because that's what it is, right? You're like opening yourself up, and then it can take so much time, and then suddenly it can be devastating. We had a question about sort of the fetish sizing that happened with me on like Instagram and Facebook. So on Facebook, it was just a bunch of my photos were taken and put onto this other like Facebook page, and all it was photos of women in wheelchairs, and it was almost all my girlfriends that use wheelchairs, all of us were on there, and it was like, and it wasn't, it wasn't like a peer support thing. It was clearly, a group of devotees, whatever you call them, and so we all had to like report it and say that our photos were taken inappropriately. On Instagram, because I have an open profile, because I do a lot of like fitness stuff and adaptive stuff. So I like to have an open profile so I can like reach the biggest audience in terms of giving people tips and tricks on like how to stay active with a disability and adaptive fitness and stuff. But it does open me up to people, like seeing my stuff and then sending me messages that are not on the appropriate side. So stuff like that can happen, definitely. But that's why there's block functions, block.
So can I add something about fetish?
Sure, yes.
If I may. So it's really interesting, right? So there's all types of sexual expression. And obviously in Sherry's case, it was involuntary fetishizing. I know that's not a word, but you know what I mean? So in Sherry's case, it was involuntary and obviously bordering on exploitation and harassment, right? But there are many people with disabilities who participate in a fetish community because through that they feel more integrated, right? They don't feel different. They don't feel inferior. They feel like a part of a larger community that all has difference. And so there's more acceptance. So I know a lot of times when we hear the word fetish, right, there's sort of a stigma with that word, like, oh, fetish, that means kinky, that means inappropriate, that means bad. But really, it just means that you enjoy things that maybe aren't typical, and you want to be a part of that community. So I just don't want the word fetish, like obviously in Sherry's case, it's not really fetishizing as much as it is like inappropriate sexual, I don't know, stalking.
Yeah.
So I mean, certainly that wouldn't be the same thing. I mean, but there are a lot of very active fetish communities, and people with disabilities often turn to that so that they can feel more integrated.
Totally. And like if something's consensual and between two consensual adults, all the power to you. That's awesome. Like if you can find a way to have a sexual expression and that's what works for you, that's incredible. But in this case, I was totally like unconsensual. So go for it. That's awesome. Alrighty, so that's a little bit about disclosing. And so what's up next? So you've made a connection or two, right? So you've swiped right, they've swiped right, woohoo, right? Ready to go. Now what? Honestly, this was so scary for me. Like the first time, like the little box that popped up and it's like, you've been matched. I was like, oh God, now what do I do? Like, I have to actually talk to this person. So oftentimes the first thing is like a chat box will pop up. So you can just like start, it's kind of like texting. So the site that I was on was called Bumble. And the way Bumble works is like, it's very female driven. So the woman has to reach out to the man first. So they can't just like continually message you. And then you also have to respond to them before they can write back again. So it's kind of cool. It's, it weeds out some of the, scary stuff that can happen for women when they're putting themselves out there. So initially you just like text back and forth. You can keep your interactions totally online if that's what you feel comfortable with. Some people, that's great for them. That works for them. Or once you get to know someone after a little while, you might want to arrange to meet in person. So those are options for sure. Some people share their personal cell phone number or their email with a match after time. So this can make communication simpler. So I did this with like a couple of the guys I was chatting with on Bumble, just because of that, me always having to be the one to reach out to them. which is the way Bumble works, and it's great, and I love that for it. But also it's nice if like occasionally they can just write to me and I don't have to be the one to initiate contact. So after like a couple weeks of talking just on Bumble, and I knew, you know, I'd done like my due diligence, a little background search, some Facebook searching, make sure that they're being legit, then I shared my cell phone number. I did share my cell phone number with one person who turned out to be a total creep. And thank goodness for the block function. You know, you just block them if that happens, if it turns out to be a mistake. And this is really a good time to like get to know someone, you know, ask those kind of fun questions, you know, find out if they have similar likes, dislikes, you know, what they like to do, what their family's like, what kind of values they have. And it can really weed out those people that really don't line up with what you're looking for. Does anybody have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, I'll add on to that. The
Sure.
one thing I always suggest is do not start with small talk. So do not start with, hey, do not start with, how's it going? Because those are open-ended, nothing answers. If you really want to get to know a person, what I do is I take something that I like, that I enjoy, that's not too specific to me, and ask them, like, for example, music would be one, or what's a popular movie you like, or what's your favorite book, stuff like that, where you can hopefully find some common ground to meet over.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like the one person that I like matched with or whatever, he was clearly like really buff in his pictures. So right away I was like, hey, so like, see, you like to work out, so do I, blah, blah, blah. So right away we had that kind of like thing to chat about, right? So there was that, or yeah, I agree. So asking like real questions right away is good, because
So you're going
honestly,
for an intellectual connection is what you're saying.
yeah, definitely. That's all I'm thinking. Yeah, so it's a fun time to like just, you know, have conversation, ask those kind of questions. Like I actually just looked up today for this, you know, like the best 10 questions to ask, and like, so like those ones that are, you know, maybe not like your initial question, but after you've been talking for a little bit, stuff like, you know, if you won like $100,000, what would you do with it? And it kind of like gives you some ideas about what's important to them and like what, you know, what they value and everything. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but yes, good advice there, Keenan. All right, so I know we're all grown-ups, so we have to do the safety talk. So doing your research is I think really good, and it's so easy nowadays. Like honestly, just going on Facebook and like searching the person, you can right away see, you know, are they married? Are they like a serial killer? Whatever. A quick Google search too. Like before I went on a date with the one guy that I'm dating right now, I Google searched him right away to make sure that like his job was was the job that he told me he had. Cause you don't know, like people could be full of it. And he totally checked out. It's all good. Having phone calls and video chats before meeting is a good way to not only get a vibe from someone, but also to prevent catfishing. So you don't know, like, is this picture mega old that they're using, or like super doctored, or not even them? Like they might not even be that person at all. They might be like a completely different age or gender or whatever. So having those phone calls and video chats before you decide to meet up with someone is really great. I'd love it if Keenan would tell his story now, because it's like sort of around this. Are you interested in doing that, Keenan?
Yeah, I'll do that. So
Okay.
it's not exactly a catfish. The person was who they said they were. Their photos were just really old, and they kind of went through an identity crisis, let's say. So let's see, I was 20. Yeah, so this was 4 years ago, and I again met with a girl through Bumble, and she seemed like a really nice, normal girl, nice family pictures with her dogs, all that kind of stuff. And we talked, I want to say I talked to her for just over a month before I agreed to meet her in person. And of course, she wanted to meet at a soup restaurant, which is, you know, like people with disabilities, especially I have cerebral palsy, so eating soup is probably my biggest nightmare possible. But I agreed because I was being nice. So I go there, and I'm more nervous about ordering soup than actually meeting this person. But I go there, and of course, I'm the first one there, which is not what I wanted, but I was the first one there because I'm like, then you're like, have to go into the restaurant and you're trapped. And I'm sitting at the table and I'm nervous, but I'm sitting, and the girl comes through the door. I didn't think it was the person I was waiting for because her photo, she had long hair and she's pretty. And this person had almost a shaved head, so hair shorter than mine, and was wearing one of those, don't know what to call it other than a choker. It's like this really tight necklace that goes around your neck, and was basically dressed in what you could consider either punk rock or goth kind of attire. And I'm a pretty simple person. I'm also pretty lenient. But when I saw that compared to the photo, I thought I was like, I'm stuck in this state. And I would have to go over to the doors, hit the button to escape. So it wasn't really a possibility for me. And we got to talking, and she basically was talking about all her kind of recent change in her life, and we just didn't match, and it was pretty brutal. And then I met up with my friends and I told them what happened, and they still bug me about that date.
The part you forgot, Keenan, was the snakes. But she kept
Oh
talking
yes,
about snakes, all her snakes.
she had snakes and rats and stuff like that, and I was like, I thought you were just gonna be nice.
Well, was she nice or was she not nice as well?
I couldn't really tell. She talked a lot, and she was mostly talking about like just everything about her that was totally different than what we had been talking about over text. So that's like the one thing I will say about online dating. People put the profile out there that they want you to like. It's not necessarily them. So when I do my profile, I try to put my most authentic self and not what I wish I was or what I think people will like.
Yeah, because the bottom line is eventually you're gonna, meet them or video chat with them or whatever, and they're gonna see.
That's out of the bag.
Yeah, so you might as well be authentic from the start. And you know what? If that's her thing, that's awesome. And I'm sure there's people out there that that's like super attractive to, but
not my thing.
She had shown you all these she had shown you these like dated photos, so you thought you were meeting someone, and it was someone kind of different, right? So
I know, she sounds really cool to me. She got rats, she got a shaved head.
That's totally Dan's like cup of tea, right?
You're welcome. Go for it, Dan.
I'm sure she's a little out of my age range, but thank you.
Yes. So it's just about being authentic, right? I think that's important, and it goes both ways. So you hope that they're being authentic with you, and you be authentic with them.
So Sherry, I was just gonna say, like, the thing that, when you look at filters, and like, obviously nowadays filters is very common, and everyone does a little filter. They're only good. I mean, I get it, but sometimes people with their filters or their catfishing photos, what really like saddens me, it's not even like whatever, is like, why not just be you again? Like, why pretend you're something you're not? Like, if you meet somebody in that way, then they're not gonna really like who you are. Like, you shave your head, you wear a choker, you got snakes and rats. Okay, cool, right? I'm sure there's lots of people out there who'd totally be into that.
Totally.
You don't need to pretend you're somebody you're not, right?
Yeah. Totally. I agree 100%. And that's why, honestly, on my profile, well, if any of you have me on Instagram, you see all my pictures are just like sweaty workout pictures. That's all. Like, there's every once in a while I'll put makeup on, and you would think I like went and had glamour shots done or something. It's ridiculous because it's like shocking to people. So same on my profile. Like, I put one picture where I'm like kind of nicer looking, like got my hair done and makeup, whatever. But the rest of them, like, no makeup, workout gear. This is what you're going to get if you want to date me. So I'm not going to like put this pretend person out there that's not going to show up anyways. What's the point? Yeah, so next, don't give out too much personal information right away, including your personal cell phone number. Like, I honestly made such a mistake. It was one of the first people I was talking to on Bumble. I was like, this is a pain in the butt, like on the Bumble app. Here's my cell phone number. He turned out to be like so freaky, messaging me like, what are you doing? Where are you? But within like 2 days, all like crazy, controlling. And I was like, see ya. So luckily, I mean, you can block, but just try not to do that too quickly. When you do feel ready to meet someone in person, make sure you're doing it in a public place if possible. Either drive yourself, get a ride with friends, or take public transit so that you're not depending on them to leave if things get uncomfortable or you feel unsafe. Also, make sure that your family or friends are aware of your plans. Not letting people know where you live is important until you feel safe. However, Dan and I were talking about this, and as people with disabilities, this can sometimes be a bit challenging because sometimes your home is where you're most safe, like most comfortable. You might not be able to just go out and meet someone in public somewhere. So if you are going to choose to have someone come into your home, having people know your plans, checking in on you, knowing exactly what time you're supposed to be there, what time you're supposed to be leaving, making sure that you're like answering the phone, all that kind of stuff. I did that with the date. I had someone come over. I had like people lined up. My phone kept ringing like all night. And I was just like, yep, still alive. He's not a killer. We're good. Like, just making sure that people are aware of what your plans are, because we just need everyone to be really safe. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Dan? I know we talked about that quite a bit.
No, I mean, I think you gotta, I mean, the reality is, like you said, I mean, if you have a disability, for many reasons, your home environment might be the most accessible for you, especially if there's plans on being romantic. As a wheelchair user, you may not have the equipment that you would need to do that sort of thing elsewhere. So it may be an option to have somebody to your home, but that's why Sherry and I wanted to point out, like, if that is the option, then make sure you sort of follow these steps to stay safe. The safety talk is always a little tricky because you don't want to feel like doom and gloom, but the reality is, as people with disabilities, we can be at higher risk for unfortunate situations, right? Even including harm. So we certainly don't want that to happen. So there are steps you can take to be safe, but we didn't want to make it sound like, oh, all these bad things are going to happen. Most people are not harmful people, right? So you can go out there and feel like you can meet somebody and get to know them, and meet up with them. But yeah, just to be safe, because every now and again there is a creep, right?
Yeah, for sure. All righty. So after all that, you're ready. How do you get started? So there's a couple different options. Well, there's tons and tons of options, but in terms of the two mainstreams, there's like mainstream dating app, which is like Bumble, which is the one that I have experience with. Tinder, which I've heard is a bit of a dumpster fire, so I don't know if you want to stay away from there. Match, OkCupid, eHarmony. These are paid subscriptions, and sometimes they end up being a little bit better because people are paying to be there. So they're maybe there for different reasons. Maybe they're there for more serious relationships, or you're more likely to find some connections on those potentially. And then there's disability-specific dating apps, which I don't have a lot of experience with, but I know some people do, where either you are connecting with other people who have disabilities, or specifically with people, be people without disabilities who are interested in dating people with disabilities. So there's a bunch of those as well. And these are just a few I've listed here. And so once you get started, you're going to create your profile, like we were talking about, being your most authentic self, right? What's the point of putting nothing but lies out there when it's going to come up and the truth always comes out. So you can also be clear about what you're looking for. So on Bumble, there's like different options. So are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for friendship? Something casual? You're not sure, like choose what you're looking for so that you're being connected with the right people that are also looking for a similar thing. When you initiate contact, don't just say hi, like Keenan had said, start an actual conversation. Commenting on similarities between the two of you, like the cilantro thing. Apparently that was like everyone's pickup line for me for a little while. It was like, I hate cilantro too, whatever. Or a funny experience. If you see something, obviously if you're like swiping right or clicking on them, You're doing that for a reason. What is it about them? Like the one guy that I'm dating right now, it was his smile. Like he had such a great smile. So I messaged him. I'm like, oh my gosh, your smile is like so like just looks so nice and authentic. And that was like kind of how we got started talking. So just something like that is a nice way to reach out rather than just like, hey, what's up? And then be okay with not getting responses from every person you reach out to. You know, it's a numbers game. There's going to be people that are not interested in you for many reasons. It might have nothing to do with you having a disability. And also there's people that have profiles that aren't using them anymore, or they're just like sitting out there. So you're swiping away, whatever. And like, let's say half of them are people that are already gone off in a relationship or just gave up on online dating or whatever. So don't take it personally. And be prepared for ghosting. I mean, this is mean and it's awful, but it happens. It's happened to me. It happens. Online rejection rates are very high, and you have to really try not to take it personally. It's hard. Like when this happened to me, to be honest, like I wasn't even that like interested in the guy, but it was like, I felt like, oh my God, you just start going through all the things like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? Like all that kind of stuff. It's because of my disability. Is it that? Is it, you know, whatever. And honestly, I had to come to terms with the fact that like this was a him problem, not a me problem. So I had to just let it go and be thankful that I found out early on that that's the kind of person he was, rather than putting any more time into the relationship. All righty, so I wanted to, we're gonna open things up for conversation, but I just wanted to say like a few positive things. So I know it can feel really hard to meet someone, especially right now, in light of the fact that we're all kind of stuck at home. But you know, there are 7.5 billion people in this world. There is definitely someone out there for everyone, if you want to be with someone, if that's what you're interested in. And there are some really nice people out there, and some of them are on online dating. You know, we're all worthy of love. And yes, it's going to take effort and time, but really nothing that's super, you know, worthwhile is really easy. As we all know, being people with disabilities, things are hard, but you know, it's also worth it in the end. So that's just my little synopsis on online dating. So if anybody wants to ask questions or share or anything like that, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Crickets?
Can I just mention something really quick?
Yeah.
So for the dating apps, some of them do have the friends option. And one of the things I will say is it's important to have safety procedures even for the friends thing. Because I've had people in my life who've met people just for the friends thing and actually been like robbed or like stuff like that. So it is important to always have safety, whether it's dating or another kind of connection.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that's really important that I didn't really touch on is once you are talking to someone or having, and I've been working on stuff with my therapist. As you guys all know, I'm in therapy continuously, forever, always a project. And it's important that you continue to be open and honest about what you're looking for. So if you're like meeting up with someone and dating someone, but you're not looking for like a real long-term relationship, make sure you're letting them know continuously so that you're always on the same page, so that they're not thinking, oh, you know, this is like great, like when are we moving in, you know, whatever. And meanwhile, you're like, you know, maybe dating a couple different people and you're on a completely different playing field or whatever than they are. Just have an open line of communication, because I'm sure you would want that as well. You wouldn't want to be putting yourself out there and then learning that someone had a completely different intent for what's going on than you do. But I've met a couple really great people online, and I was only on it for 5 days, and then I deleted my account. So 5 days was long enough for me to start. And we'll see. I mean, who knows, right? Like going down the road, what happens, and maybe I'll try it again one day. But for now, it was an overall positive experience for me so far. So yeah, my first time online dating. I was married for 20 years. Yeah. Any other questions or?
I appreciate where you were saying about reasons why people may not respond because of not using it or not whatever it might be, because I didn't think of those.
Yeah.
Because I'm on a couple that local to me in Victoria here, Facebook things, but they provide events that you go to and you make friends. But if you meet somebody, great. If you make a bunch of friends, great. I like it better that way.
Yeah, fun.
But I do find it amusing and frustrating when women say, I want to find a man that can communicate, and I send them a thought out introduction saying hello and they don't reply. Well, you want someone to communicate, but you do not.
Yeah.
And there was two women that I found it even more frustrating and amusing, that after I sent my hello, I want to introduce myself, whatever I said, then they were complaining that men don't communicate. They only send hey or hi. And it's like, well, hello, so it's part of that, what you guys were saying, be authentic.
Yeah.
Even if they said, hey, thank you, I looked at your picture, but no thank you, I'd rather that than just the cold shoulder.
Totally. Yeah, the mixed messages can be really confusing. And like, yeah, if you feel like you're putting your authentic self out there, you kind of assume that other people are too, right? But that's not always the case. So yeah, honestly, I think just keep on trying. If you want to meet someone, you just got to keep going, because it's not easy, right?
Well, it's like anything else. It happens if I put the work into it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing. So the other reason I deleted my app was because I found that I was spending a lot of time on it. And so maybe a year and a bit ago, I deleted Facebook off my phone for that reason. I found that I was like obsessively on there and it was just stupid. There was nothing to look at anyways. I was scrolling mindlessly. So I found like I was almost getting like a serotonin kind of dump when I'd like swipe and then and there'd be a match, and it felt like very strange, like almost like a gambling high or something. Like, so I ended up deleting the app for that reason too, because I was getting a bit preoccupied with it, I should say. So, so just make sure that if you do some online dating, that you're just being cautious of like how much time and attention you are spending on it, and make sure that you're still, making time for the real people, the three-dimensional people in your life. Any other questions or comments? Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that everyone was able to attend today and to share some of your experiences. If you have any questions about any of this stuff and maybe you aren't comfortable asking in the group setting, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share my experience or give you any resources on how to connect with some of these dating sites. And I hope that if love is what you're looking for, I hope you find it. So I'm going to stop recording.